Welcome to Outlaw Theology with the Whiskey Preacher. I'm your host, Phil Shepard, better known as the Whiskey Preacher, and today we will be addressing the fourth and final question on election month here on Patheos. And today's question gets at the heart of us as bloggers here on Patheos, because the question is simply, who are we going to vote for and why? Over the years, I've been a real student of history. I've been a big fan of reading and studying the Civil War in particularly. I've been watching a lot of documentaries of late, Battlefield Detectives from the History Channel, and Ken Burns' series that he did over 20 years ago on the Civil War. And it fascinates me to watch this stuff. And one of the things that was said over and over again in all these documentaries that I've been watching is that the famous saying, and I believe it was from Abraham Lincoln, and he said, "A house divided cannot stand." I find this statement very fascinating and very applicable to our situation here in America today. I don't think the country's been as divided as it is now since the Civil War, since the time of the abolition of slaves, since the time of the secession of the Confederate States of America. And this time, though, I don't think it's over North and South, and it may be, but I think it's over a division of religiosity, as Bill Maher puts it, that has divided us as a country. Those of us who tend to be more progressive in our Christianity or claim no Christianity or spirituality, but just seek to be a moral place, seem to back President Obama. And those who are affiliated with the religious right, whether it's evangelical, Catholic, Mormon, seem to have also an underlining agenda of the candidate they support. And because of the last election, President Obama, he has polarized these two divisions going at one another. And I just find that absolutely fascinating, because I don't think President Obama is as liberal as his liberal counterparts would like him to be. And honestly, he infuriates at least most of the conservative right-wing folks I've ever encountered. And it's never really been my policy to openly talk about politics, not that I don't have an opinion, but being a pastor of a faith community where part of our ethos at the Eucatastrophe is that we can agree to disagree on things and still be community. And that means, and that invites people from all different religious backgrounds and political backgrounds. I have friends and family that are part and staunch supporters of the Tea Party, the Libertarian Party, and I have friends and family that are somewhere in between, and then I have friends and family that are all the way to the extreme left. And yet, we may be a microcosm of what's going on within the greater community of the United States. I think we should vote for a president, and I will vote for a president that I think that can best unify a country again. And believe it or not, I believe that is President Obama. I am going to vote for our incumbent president to be reelected, because I believe that he can reunify the country more so than Mitt Romney can. And I know that sounds like an oxymoron statement, because I just suggested that his past 4 years in term has created this polarization within the country. However, because I think he has the best intent for all of us. Those of us who are on the left, those of us who are on the right, those of us who are in the middle. I think that he has the desire and the capability. I don't believe he's Superman. I didn't vote for him last time because I thought he was Superman. But I think he has the ability to reunite a country. And I don't believe that we're going to experience a civil war like we did before, but we are divided and have been warring, mind you, through our blogs, through our Twitter posts, through our Facebook posts, through our Pinterest posts, through talk radio, through news. We have been warring at one another for such a long time because of the undercurrent of division that's in this country. And I truly believe President Obama can address that undercurrent and not completely make us whole, but make us a unified country again. I love the things that he's done in the Middle East. I love the idea. I'm a very strong supporter of our troops. I'm very thankful for them. But I am not a strong supporter of the wars that we have been involved in the last 10, 15 years. I also am a fan of his stance on LGBTQ rights. My last post, an old friend of mine, Danny, which I'm glad he felt free to be able to post what he did, suggested that I was only voting for one candidate over one issue, and that's just not the case. These are just micro statements, micro purposes that why I am choosing to try to re-elect President Obama again. The military, the LGBTQ, healthcare. People have been on and on about Obamacare, but I feel like that is pushing us to a more unified country. Where I find it very interesting, especially within the Republican right-wing party, that it seems like the rich continue to want to separate themselves from the middle class and the poor. And whereas President Obama wants to bridge that gap. It's also been brought to my attention by a friend of mine, Harley Matthews, who is the co-pastor at the brewery, the Eucatastrophe Sister Community down in Corpus Christi, Texas, suggested that the evangelical support of somebody like Mitt Romney suggests that there is possibly still an underlying current that continues to divide us as a country of racism. That they, no matter what, do not want a person of color in the office again. And there may be some truth to that. There might be some racial undertones that really have thrusted the religious right and their ideas of the separation of not church and state, because they're not for separation of church and state, but the separation or the divorcement of a moderate to liberal candidate who is a man of color from the rest of the United States. I would love to hear your thoughts. I want to know who you're voting for, why you're voting for them, and do you agree or disagree with my idea that we are in the most divided state that we've been in as a country since the Civil War? And if so, how have you seen those battles play out in 21st century America? Again, without shame, I'm telling you, I am voting for President Obama, and I would love to hear your reactions to that as well. Thank you for joining me here on Outlaw Theology with the Whiskey Preacher. Please feel free to continue through Election Day having this conversation on Twitter. My hashtag is the #Whiskey Preacher. Patheos's hashtag for this conversation is the #Patheos election. Feel free to visit these other blogs that are blogging about why they're choosing the candidate that they are and why. And don't forget that also you can have this conversation down here in the comment section. I've had some lively conversations this month on faith and politics here on Outlaw Theology, or you can have this conversation over here, which side this is, on my Facebook page, which is Whiskey Preacher. Don't forget to like the page and have that conversation there. Thanks again for popping by here, and I look forward to your conversation.